And welcome back, everybody, to this edition of Tobs Talk, presented by Thomas and Ferris right here on Greenlight Channel 2. Tonight's doubleheader against the Peninsula Pilots is sponsored by Greenlight. We'll be giving out these really cool green mood cups. We'd have one right now, but we tend to use a green screen here at Greenlight, so it doesn't really show up that well. But these mood cups are awesome. They're green, and considering it's a Thirsty Thursday, if you want to get yourself one of those adult sodas down in the beer garden and pour that adult soda into the mood cup, you'll see that the cup does, in fact, change color. So thank you to Greenlight for that. Remember, Greenlight, the only, just one of 2 gigabyte cities in America, the only gigabyte city here in North Carolina. So really thank you to Greenlight for all you guys do. The game is also sponsored by the Pink Ladies of Wilson, as it will be Pink Night, where we will be raffling off, or actually auctioning off, these pink jerseys. Bids, you can put them online at Wilson Tobs, which is our Twitter, and we also have an email which we will put up on our Twitter just in case you want to use that email. And make sure you get those bids, because there's always some fun battling between families as well as the host families here in Wilson. And it's really cool to see the numbers just keep going up and up and up. So we've got Greenlight as a sponsor, the Pink Ladies. We also have Wilson Ortho, so thanks to Wilson Ortho for sponsoring tonight's game. And of course, Coastal Beverage for the last Thirsty Thursday of the season. Coastal Beverage, a proud partner along with the Foothills Brewing Company. And of course, make sure you check out that Foothills 39 Club along the BB&T concourse on the first base side. So a lot of stuff to get to. Tonight's game, a doubleheader against the Peninsula Pilots, with the first game starting at 6:05. Gates open at 5 o'clock. Now, both games are 7-inning affairs, and the Tobs magic number is just 3 games. That's right, if the Tobs win just 3 more games the rest of the season, essentially all they have to do is go 500, and they will make the playoffs. And if they do, they will have a home game next week on August 6th. Now, also, if the other teams, which are right now, we're looking at the Morehead City Marlins, the Fayetteville Swamp Dogs, and the Wilmington Sharks, if those teams combine for 3 losses in a manner, and it's really kind of difficult to describe because the CPL has a convoluted playoff picture with a first half and second half winner. But if one of those 3 teams combine for 3 losses, then the Tobs will also get into the playoffs. So 3 wins from the Tobs and then losses from Morehead City, Fayetteville, as well as Wilmington will get your Tobs into the playoffs for the first time since 2009. So folks, make sure you come out for tonight's doubleheader against the Peninsula Pilots. The last 2 games against the Pilots this summer, doubleheader, 2 7-inning games starting at 6:05. The second game will be played a half hour after the conclusion of the first one. Gates open at 5 o'clock for that doubleheader. Again, tonight's game is sponsored by Coastal Beverage, Wilson Ortho, the Pink Ladies of Wilson, who came up with these really snazzy pink uniforms, and also tonight's game sponsored by Greenlight. And one more time, thank you, Greenlight, so much for doing everything, including putting on Tobs Talk, which is presented by Thomas and Ferris right here on Greenlight Channel 2. And make sure you also, if you have a Greenlight system, check out the game on WIG TV channel 19, or if you want to stream it and use the computer there and the old internet, you can go to wigtv.com, which is WHIGTV.com. That's WHIGTV.com for tonight's doubleheader against the Peninsula Pilots. This is Jake Donnelly on Greenlight Channel 2 saying thank you for tuning in, and hopefully we'll see you all at Fleming. And welcome back, everybody, to this very special pink edition of Tobs Talk presented by Thomas and Ferris right here on Greenlight Channel 2. I'm Jake Donnelly, and with me right now is Reagan Pope, reliever for the Wilson Tobs. Now, Reagan, you're a guy that wasn't here through pretty much the entire season, but you made your way just a couple of weeks ago. And I have to ask, what's the hardest thing for you? What's the hardest transition when you join the team late?
I guess really like trying to get to know all the guys. Like it was hard getting everybody's name down the first couple of days, but I think I did a pretty good job. You know, probably had it within the first 3 or 4 days, I'd say. So that's trying to make friends, I guess.
And it's really tough when you do. It's like 29 other guys. You're trying to figure stuff out, really trying to figure out the coaching staff as well. Are you the type of guy where when you first get here, you try to be quiet to see how to play, and then you find out that this isn't exactly the most serious bunch?
Yeah, no, I definitely didn't like talk a whole lot whenever I was first here. Just kind of be quiet and keep to myself, I guess. And but yeah, no, I definitely got the vibe that our coaches like to have fun and stuff like that. So it's nice.
Yeah, and you had a decent amount of fun out on the mound last night. You came up in a really bad situation. Bases loaded, 1 out. but you end up getting out of the inning, allowing just one inherited runner to score on a sacrifice fly, picking up a strikeout, then pitched the next inning and picked up some more strikeouts. What was working for you out on the mound last night?
I was finally able to locate my fastball where I wanted to, and then obviously the other pitchers work off of that. So, that was probably the biggest thing, and also having a good curveball and being able to put it where I wanted. So.
And when you come out of the bullpen, you're a reliever. You hear a lot of guys talk about how they have 3 pitches, but when they're relieving, they just stick with 2.
Right.
For you, do you do that, or is there any difference for you out on the mound when you're coming out of the bullpen?
Really, I'll try and work with my changeup a little bit as the 3rd pitch, just because it's a little bit harder to get righties to bite on breaking stuff. Obviously, it's hard to hit a lefty if you're a left-handed hitter, so. That's kind of my out pitch to a righty is a changeup. So,
and did a really good job last night, allowing no earned runs through an inning and 2/3 against the Wilmington Sharks in the Tobs 8-1 defeat last night. You are a Texas boy from Georgetown, Texas, here on the East Coast. How are you dealing with the humidity? Which one's worse, Texas or North Carolina?
Well, since I've been here, the humidity hadn't really been too bad, actually. I mean, it's been pretty nice. I guess the first day when I got here, we had 4 tarp pools, and the humidity after the rain was pretty bad. But other than that, I mean, it's been pretty nice. So I'd say, it's pretty even right now. It's kind of like the weather back home.
And you grew up in Georgetown, Texas. If that sounds familiar to some of the fans out there, it's because Tyler Watson, who pitched for the Tobs earlier in the season, is also from Georgetown, Texas. And you guys kind of grew up together, correct?
Right, yeah. We met playing Little League Baseball whenever we were 8 years old. And his dad, the way we met actually was not even on the field. My dad and his dad were talking about how bad our practice was that was being run. And so they kind of got to be friends that way. And then later on, we've been friends ever since then, really good friends. So.
Do you guys talk about pitching a lot? Were that the type of relationship that you had?
Yeah, definitely. I called him last night actually and talked to him about everything and just talking about the learning curve. Me being a Division III baseball player, it's a lot different facing D1 hitters and potential draft guys. But you got to be a lot more fine with your pitches and things like that.
And did a very good job. That game could have gone completely out of hand. Yes, it was an 8-1 score at the end of things, but really it could have been 13-14 if you didn't go out there and do your job. So you're doing a very nice job. Now we go from last night where you were solid out on the mound, and here's the question that trips up everybody. What is your favorite baseball memory? It could be from any time. We had one of the guys talk about a home run he hit when he was 12 years old. So when I say your favorite baseball memory, I mean whenever.
I have to say it's not gonna be a success story, but my first time on the mound here actually against Moorhead. We were in Moorhead City, and there's guys they were ragging everybody that night. And I remember stepping on the mound, and the first thing I hear is them talking about my mom, yelling my mom's name, and I just thought it was funny. I never thought anybody would really look that much into detail and try and get your mom's name and all that stuff. Just pretty funny.
Yeah, Google can be you a very good thing and a very bad thing.
Yeah.
Every player profile is somewhere out on the internet.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Yeah, did you actually have to step off the mound, or was it something after?
My first pitch was way out of the zone, just because I was really, it was in my head, honestly. You can't even say that it isn't. It's just kind of crazy, to be honest.
But it's a good job you've done settling down.
Yeah.
That's a really good one. We've had a lot of success stories. I kind of like going in the opposite direction.
Yeah. And also, there's 1,200 people there. I never thrown it in front of that many people either. So, that's pretty cool.
Does that get the heart rate going a little bit more?
Oh, yeah, for sure. That first night, I was really in my head. There's all these people here and everything. And, since then, I've kind of been able to let that go. And, I think it's just like anything else. You get used to it more and more, so.
Yeah, and even on that first night, you pitched pretty well. You had a strike zone which apparently right down the heart of the plate about mid-thigh high is no longer a strike. So that was actually, I think it made it into the game report or maybe up on Twitter.
Yeah,
because
it was on Twitter, I think.
Yeah, it was probably on Twitter. I guess I'm a little bit too colorful on Twitter for Tobs when they're on the away games. But Reagan, thank you so much for coming in this morning. I really do appreciate it. And actually, one last question.
Okay.
How do you feel wearing pink?
It's not too bad. I don't really care. I think it's kind of cool. Actually, I'm trying to get my jersey and take it back home because my aunt died a couple years ago of breast cancer, and trying to sign it and give it to my cousin. So, that would be a pretty cool deal to take back to Texas.
Yeah, and remember, folks, you can actually bid on these pink jerseys that both Reagan and I are wearing right now. So if you have somebody in your family that has had to deal with breast cancer or really any type of cancer, the proceeds will be going towards the Pink Ladies of Wilson. So make sure you take a bunch of bids out there, and if you want a pink jersey, even if you don't, it's a good cause. So Reagan, again, thank you for coming in this morning.
No problem.
When we come back, much more on Tobs Talk, presented by Thomas and Ferris, right here on Greenlight Channel 2. And welcome back, everybody, to this edition of Tobs Talk, presented by Thomas and Ferris, right here on Greenlight Channel 2. I'm Jake Donnelly, and with me now is Jerry Stansel. Jerry is the Sales and Marketing Manager for Greenlight, and thank you for coming in this morning. I see You've got a Wilson Tobs staff shirt on, and there's also something on the back as well. Tell me a little bit more about that shirt and the partnership with the Tobs.
Well, it's all about promoting, right? It's all about promoting the Tobs, and then also on the back, if you can see Greenlight, the opportunity came is that when I got with Thomas and we talked about the sponsorship this year, and so we agreed to do certain things, and he said, look, would you like to do the shirts for the staff of each game? And I said, I'd love to. Come up with some ideas or whatever. So this is the shirt that we came up with, the staff wears every night. And so I thought it was a pretty cool shirt, and it sponsors both sides, and so I said, absolutely, let's do it.
Yeah, and I think it's a pretty cool shirt as well. It's the shirt that the game day staff ends up wearing for each game, and I actually grabbed one of those shirts because there was one lying around. And
cool.
You know what? If an extra one made its way into my wardrobe, all the better, right?
Evidently you did like it then. That's cool.
Yes, I did.
Cool.
Now, I am not, I'm a sports guy, I'm an athlete, but there's one sport that I'm really bad at, and that is golf. I don't like to even call it a sport because I am in fact so bad at it, but I have heard that Greenlight does a lot in the community, especially with golf.
We do. It's a golfing community. We have 4 golf courses in the small community, and a lot of your clubs raise money through golf events, and they put on golf tournaments. So you have your Kiwanis, you have your Breakfast Optimists, you have your Mulligans for Kids, you have the Chamber, and we're heavy into those sponsorships because a lot of people come and play, and that's how they raise a lot of money because they do a great thing within the community. And as you know, Greenlight is all about helping the community, what we can do with the community. So that's a good way to do it, is through golf tournaments.
And how does Greenlight decide on what events to do, where to do them? How do they go through this process?
Well, they will call, and our team will talk about the process that we need to do, who we need to sponsor. We try to sponsor as much as we can, as much as the budget will allow us. And so, being in Wilson a long time and knowing a lot of the organizations, myself and also the other team members, we know what they do. We know what the events do and how they help the community. So that makes it easy knowing your product.
Now, you yourself are a pretty good golfer from what we were talking about before we went on air.
Okay.
I know you don't want to pinpoint one golf course necessarily, but is there one that stands up a little bit above the others in your mind? Or what's your favorite course to play?
I'd rather not touch that because I know the pros all so well, and so I enjoy playing all of them.
Okay.
They're all great.
So speaking of pros, let's go to another golfing event. It's the U.S. Open this weekend
Yes.
at Pinehurst,
Yes.
which isn't exactly all that far from here.
Absolutely.
Who do you have this weekend in the U.S. Open?
I'd love to see Phil win one. He's come in second 6 times, and so I have the opportunity to be there Sunday to watch him win it.
That was going
So
to be my
that's
next.
going to be cool. I can't wait.
So Sunday, do you have a plan for which holes you're going to be at? How are you going to go about traveling around Pinehurst on Sunday?
I like being spontaneous. So if you have a plan, you're going to, get out of your plan. So let's do spontaneous and be where you think you're going to be. I'm also going to have one of my best buddies we do golf trips on. I don't know how he got this promo, but he's going to be doing a scoreboard. And so he's going to be changing the numbers on the scores. That is so cool.
Like the manual scoreboard where if the guy goes under par, they'll put up the red number.
The big one?
Yeah.
I don't know which one on what hole, but absolutely. So that's going to be cool.
So he came by that. Did you ask him how he got it, or maybe if a friend could do it?
No, a friend told me that they had told him last night at Downtown Alive. So that's another event that we sponsor. Downtown Alive, we do that. We're Fridays on the Lawn, we do that. And so getting back to the sponsorships, we do a lot of the sponsorships, and that was another one.
And what is the next event coming up for Greenlight?
We have, in a couple of weeks, another event at Downtown Alive. We're bringing in a band, beach band called Band of Oz. They're probably one of the best around. So they're coming in. That's the next event that we'll have coming up.
All right, so Band of Oz in a couple of weeks. And tonight, a Thirsty Thursday promotion against the Wilmington Sharks, presented by Greenlight. Right now, you're listening to Tobs Talk on Greenlight Channel 2, presented by Thomas and Ferris. Jerry, thank you for coming in. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. This has been a blast.
When we come back, we will have Jake Armstrong, utility player for the Tobs. And welcome back, everybody, to Tobs Talk. I'm Jake Donnelly, and Tobs Talk is presented by Thomas and Ferris right here on Greenlight Channel 2. Tonight's game is sponsored by Wilson Ortho, another Thirsty Thursday, and the first 500 fans through the gates receive a free team photo. And with me right now from Wilson Ortho is Dr. Todd Smith, who's an orthopedic surgeon, and I really appreciate you coming in. I know you've got a very busy day lined up, so I appreciate that. Talk a little bit about your specialty and what is it exactly that you do with Wilson Ortho?
Well, my specialty is sports medicine, so I focus on the shoulder and the knee mainly. So we see a lot of the Tobs guys and a lot of other athletes in town. So that's my area that I really try to focus on, is the shoulder and the knee.
And we were talking before about the types of injuries that younger players get and also older people get. What's the most prevalent type of injury you see?
Depends on what season it is. Like we were talking about earlier, football season, knee injuries are huge. Baseball season, later on in the year, we end up with a lot of elbow problems, a lot of shoulder problems, cartilage problems in the shoulder. As we get older, we tend to get more rotator cuff troubles. Everybody hears shoulder problems and they think rotator cuff, but that's usually more of the 30, 40, 50-year-old guys. And then the younger folks, it's usually cartilage problems that we see in the shoulder.
And now for anybody that's getting a little bit older, is there anything that they can do to try to ward off that and not have to go visit you at Wilson Ortho?
Right, staying out of my office is usually a good thing if you can do it. Trying to stay active, one of the biggest troubles we run into is when we finish high school, we finish college, we stop working out as much, we stop doing as much, and then when we try to do it just on the weekends, that actually puts more stress on the shoulder and other things. So it's better to stay active and keep in a general routine more days than not, as opposed to just doing it on the weekends. Obviously, keeping our weight down and all that kind of stuff, and general strengthening program with not high weights, but focusing mainly on repetitions and low weight.
And that's always a good way just to keep the blood flowing, make sure that the body is working. Now, if somebody feels any pain or anything like that, what would you suggest they do, whether it be knees or shoulders?
Well, most of the time at the beginning, it's common sense stuff. It's a little bit of rest, backing off the activity that bothers you, ice, the Advil type things, as long as they don't bother your stomach. I tell folks that, if something hurts while you're doing it, it's just like my dad used to say, well, then don't do that. But then if it lingers, if it's longer than a few days and it's just not turning around, then you ought to have it checked just to be sure you're not making anything worse or creating some more damage.
Okay, so common sense stuff, that's not good for me. That's really not my specialty. Talking about tonight's game, which is against the Edenton Steamers, but it's a 7:05 start for the Tobs. Gates open at 6 o'clock. I mentioned first 500 fans through the gates get a free team photo. You growing up were a basketball player as well as a baseball player. What was your favorite sport between the two?
Well, when I was younger, it was definitely baseball. My grandfather was a big baseball guy. As I got a little older and being a North Carolina guy, I was a little more into the basketball, and that's what led to all of my injuries and all of my surgeries, so maybe I should have stuck with baseball. But yeah, it was really both of them neck and neck, but as I got older, I was definitely better at basketball than I was at baseball.
That's pretty good, especially being the Tar Heel State.
Yep.
It's a little bit more fun to be a better basketball player than baseball.
It's been a little tough lately with all of the stuff going on in the news, but yeah, it's definitely good.
Yeah, we're not going to mention Rashad McCants and all the stuff that he has brought into the news as of late, but I have to ask you one more question. What got you into medicine in the first place?
Well, it probably was being involved in sports and growing up and being around sports and having the injuries and then the surgeries and the rehab and the things like that I ended up having. I ended up in college working for the surgeon that had done all of my stuff, and that kind of got me even further interested in it. And then it just kind of led from there, and when I went to medical school, I just gravitated toward orthopedics and then even more gravitated toward sports medicine. So it's a way to kind of stay young and stay involved.
All right, well, Dr. Smith, thank you so much for coming in this morning. Remember, folks, tonight's game, a Thirsty Thursday promotion, which I'm sure if it's not raining tonight, that the good doctor here will make his way over to Fleming Stadium. First 500 fans through the gate get a free Tobs team photo. All that and more coming up on Tobs Talk right here on Greenlight Channel 2, presented by Thomas and Ferris. And welcome back, everybody, to this very special pink edition of Tobs Talk, presented by Thomas and Ferris right here on Greenlight Channel 2. I'm Jake Donnelly, and joining me right now is Jamie Ellis of the Pink Ladies. And Jamie, you're a nurse at Wilson Medical Center, but what do you do with the Pink Ladies?
Educate and spread breast cancer awareness.
And when it comes to breast cancer, when you talk about awareness, what does that mean? Just the knowledge that there is breast cancer, what type of people can get it, how to fix it? What does that mean?
We encourage ladies to do monthly breast exams and encourage every woman over the age of 40 to get their yearly mammogram. And we try to help out women who can't maybe afford to go see the doctor and get them to their doctor's appointments and help out with those kinds of things in our community.
And we've seen a lot of this kind of breast cancer awareness start to roll, and it gets more popular as the years have gone by. And you yourself here in Wilson are doing something to kind of bring that awareness in terms of stuff that's on the side of the road. What is that exactly?
The pink trash cans. And this year you'll see pink recycling bins. And we are still selling them till the end of July, and you can call 399-8975 and order a trash can or a recycling bin, and we'll have them at the end of September, just in time for October for Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Ah, that's perfect. So not only are you actually raising the awareness of breast cancer, but you're also helping out by providing trash cans and recycling bins.
We like to say we're kicking cancer to the curb.
That's actually awesome. I really like that one. Who came up with that?
That would have to be the people who started making the pink trash cans.
Well, they get paid for a reason. That's
They
pretty
do.
fun. So, Pink Ladies helping kicking cancer to the curb here in Wilson, thanks to Jamie Ellis. And when it comes to more of this breast cancer awareness, where can people go for those mammograms and everything like that?
Well, of course, we'd like it to stay local and at Wilson Medical Center, but several of the local doctors, if we can't take care of it here, they will send you elsewhere. But if they need any advice to get any help, they can call 399-8975, and Robin Williams can get them in touch with who they need to talk to.
And if somebody ends up being diagnosed with breast cancer, is this also a type of group where it's a support group as well?
Yes, it is. And we've helped several families deal with not so good outcomes, and we still are in touch with those families that we have helped throughout the 14 years.
Okay, so if I want to, or if anybody else here in Wilson wants to get one of those pink trash cans or those pink recycling bins, how do I go about it again?
Call 399-8975, or you can look up the Pink Ladies of Wilson on Facebook, and
Yep.
that'll get you, or you can find me, Jamie Ellis, on Facebook, and that'll get you a trash can or a recycling bin.
All right, so whatever you guys need, and if you want to help kick cancer to the curb, make sure you check out the Pink Ladies of Wilson. Jamie, thank you so much
Thank you.
for coming in this morning and looking oh so good in your pink scrubs. When we come back, we'll wrap up this edition of Tobs Talk, presented by Thomas and Ferris right here on Greenlight Channel 2. And welcome back, everybody, to this pink edition of Tobs Talk, presented by Thomas and Ferris right here on Greenlight Channel 2. With me now is the head coach of the Tobs, Justin Hay. And Justin, we had Reagan Pope on the show earlier, and he was talking about how the Moorhead City Marlins, in his first relief appearance, were really ragging on him and actually brought up his mom when he was out on the mound, and he was kind of like a little bit more than anxious because it was such a big crowd and they were yelling at him. What do pitchers have to do in those situations to kind of just calm the nerves?
Well, they just have to focus on the mitt and kind of create a situation where they don't hear everything that's going on around them. But the first time you're in that situation, it's a little different. But as you move forward, you lock in, you zone in, and you've got to be able to tune that out so that you can focus on the task at hand.
And what's the biggest crowd you've played in front of?
There's probably two. I don't know which one was bigger. I played my senior year. We played the regional down in Daytona Beach, and the final game of our regional, there was a big crowd there. And then the district championship, my junior year in high school, there was probably 2,000-3,000 people there. So there was a lot of people there.
Mississippi loves their baseball, huh?
Yeah, well, yeah, and it was two towns that were 30 minutes apart, and it was a big rivalry, and we had both only lost like 1 or 2 games in conference, so it was a huge game.
Was that the most nervous you've ever been on the mound, or what's the most nervous you've ever been on the mound?
Really, I don't really recall being nervous on the mound. I've always been able to kind of calm those down. And usually, I was being more nervous if I was starting a game in the bullpen. Once I walked out to the mound, usually I'd have my catcher punch me or something before we walked out, just to kind of calm everything down. And I guess the most anxious I've been is the regional. I came in the 9th. I knew it was my last college appearance. We were losing 7-2, and I threw 8 pitches to the backstop. And my third baseman, who was also my roommate, came to me and said, "Are you trying to throw your arm off today?" And I said, "Well, I'm not going to need it after today." So then I locked in and pitched really well. And but those 8 pitches, everybody thought that I had no clue where it was going.
So kind of a Rick Ankiel moment for you out there on the mound?
Oh yeah, definitely.
And we're talking about the Tobs playoffs. The magic number, excuse me, is still at 3. When you have the team having lost 2 games in a row, what do you need to do to turn it around to just kind of like stop the little slide at the moment?
Well, I think right now it's going to be quality starting pitching. It kind of sets the tone for us, and the 2 guys we've had start the last 2 nights haven't done a bad job. They just haven't seemed to have been able to go out there and pitch with confidence. They've always been trying to pitch around stuff. Runners on base, walks here and there. 2 nights ago, Michael Wilson threw actually really well there for the first 4 innings, and then he kind of ran into some trouble in the 5th. But, hopefully with our guys who have been in the starter role all year, pitching the next 3 days, or today, the next 3 games, 2 games today, 1 game tomorrow, hopefully the offense and the defense continues to be confident behind them.
All right, well, Justin, thank you for coming in this morning, and I have to say, you look terrific in pink.
Better than you.
Yeah, ain't that the truth, folks? All right, when we come back on this edition of Tobs Talk, we'll wrap things up. Tobs Talk is presented by Thomas and Ferris right here on Greenlight Channel 2. And welcome, everybody, to another edition of Tobs Talk. I'm Jake Donnelly, and Tobs Talk is presented by Thomas and Ferris right here on Greenlight Channel 2. And I am feeling very manly today. I have the pink jersey that the Tobs will be wearing during their doubleheader tonight against the Peninsula Pilots, and I have makeup on. If that's not manly, I don't know what is. Unfortunately, the Tobs not so good right now in the last 2 games, as they lost to the Fayetteville Swamp Dogs by a score of 5-2 2 nights ago, and then lost to the Wilmington Sharks by a score of 8-1. In that 5-2 ball game, Michael Wilson took the mound and pitched pretty well through the first 4 innings, took the mound in the 5th, but was unable to get a single out in the 5th inning. The Swamp Dogs actually had a 4-1 or a 4-0 lead at that point. The Tobs would score a run, making it 4-1. It would be 5-2 into the 8th inning, when the Tobs would threaten getting 2 men on first and second, but they were unable to get a run home. Then in the 9th inning, again, they threatened getting guys on second and third, but were unable to get the runs home, dropping that game to the Fayetteville Swamp Dogs by a score of 5-2. The next night against the Wilmington Sharks, they looked for a little bit of a difference, but they didn't really get one, as Julio Valdez took the mound and again went just 4 innings for the Tobs. He only allowed 2 runs, but he walked 5 guys in those 4 innings, and the Tobs just really didn't get things going. Last night was the premiere of Sharknado 2, the second one, and the Wilmington Sharks kind of just whisked right through the Tobs during the middle innings, scoring 6 runs, eventually winning the game by a score of 8-1, the lone run for the Tobs coming in the top of the 9th inning on a bases-loaded walk from Doug Teagarden, whose last at-bat as a Tob, because he is going home, was a walk, which is pretty fitting considering he leads the Tobs in the free passes this summer. So Tobs looking to rectify things tonight against the Peninsula Pilots, but before we get to that, we will have a bunch more here on Tobs Talk, presented by Thomas and Ferris right here on Greenlight Channel 2.